What's up, gifted family? Welcome to another episode of the show that is the GP YouTube. Just a reminder that if you support what we do here, make sure to go over to giftedperformance.com and sign up for our automated coaching service. For only $1 a day, you'll get access to 15 highly customized training programs, a macronutrient calculator, our meal planning feature that lets you build and save meals based on your macros, as well as access to our private Facebook group. All subscriptions help us in continuing to put out great content to get you to your fitness goals. Thanks for stopping by, and without any further delay, let's get into today's video. Enjoy.
All right, we're back. You know what it is. Another episode of the Athlete Diaries. A familiar face up top. We've got Cameron Cheek and a very close friend of mine, athlete, client, Rachel Pollard. The one, the only. What's your Instagram tag? I can never read it. It's so long. What is it?
Incredibly Rachy Pole.
Okay. Well, is that like because of work?
Yeah, like incredible, except thread because I sew.
Thread.
Yeah.
God, yeah. That is genius. And I'm over here thinking that the Squat Father is funny and smart, but it's not. But Rachel joins us to talk today about her contest prep season that is still going on. The prep season that never ends, right?
The prep year, really.
The prep year, yeah. We're probably, when did we officially start?
November, I think.
November, yeah. So we are coming up on, oh God, too many months now.
You convinced them to continue dieting.
I just drug them.
For sure, having to give them some meth. Like, another week, I'll keep your rations coming. Like
that's part of the application process. Drug of choice, and then to keep them going on prep, I just send them. That's part of the gifted performance thing. Mm-hmm. Personal training, nutrition, also drug cartel. But I do want to give Rachel a chance to introduce herself to the podcast. So, Rachel, tell me about yourself. What do you do for a living? What do you do for fun? Maybe give me a little bit of a history about your training background.
Okay. For a living, I studied costume design in college, so I have a degree in costume design. I now work in wardrobe for theater. So I help build the costumes, and then when the shows open, I dress the actors and do their quick changes backstage and then maintain the costumes during the shows. There's a little bit of like hair and wigs work thrown in there, but mostly costumes.
That's really cool. What's the hardest part about that job?
It's a very people-person-y job, so you're dealing with difficult people occasionally can be the hardest part. But it's also my hours can be really strange, and like if there's a show running, I'm working nights, and if there's no show running, I'm working like a regular 9-to-5 job. So it's like not a super consistent schedule, which can be challenging.
How is it dealing with the actors? I imagine in my mind that they're all curmudgeon-y and they think they're special.
No, some of them think they're special, but most of them are actually really great. It's probably a lot like dealing with clients, actually.
Oh, yeah. Most of them are terrible.
Not your school theater people you're used to. These are probably people that have made it to real world and realized, like, hey, man.
So what are some of the recent shows? Are there like big name shows that I would recognize? And by big name shows that I would recognize, I mean like the Nutcracker and Cats and Rent. That's the extent of my knowledge.
No, not recently. The new job I just got, they do like newer work, so it's smaller, more contemporary shows, and so nothing that you would have heard of yet. They do some musicals that may eventually go to Broadway. They're kind of like workshopped, so eventually you may know some of them, but not yet.
When I was in middle school, I could sing in a really high voice, and they put me in the play, and they made me play a lady.
Huh.
I know.
Do you have video of that?
No. I know where you're going with this.
I bet
no.
I
bet, yeah. Cindy's probably got it. But no, we're not going back there.
Hit up
okay. All
my
right.
friends are there on Facebook.
All right, let's talk training though. So
Okay.
Rachel comes from a training background of.
Well, so when I was a kid, I did gymnastics.
Just a special alert here. I don't want to interrupt you. If you got a kid and you're watching this, make them do gymnastics. Chances are that it will greatly improve their athletic capacity as they get older. Just
Big
Yeah.
time.
It does seem to be a trend.
Tasha was one. Gymnasts make some bomb bodybuilders.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
And then where'd you go?
And then so I got kind of out of competitive gymnastics pretty young, like I think in middle school, but I kept doing it kind of as a hobby. And then I kept up through it, with it through high school. And then in high school, we got this like brand new weight room. So I started to like train, and I use that word very loosely, with some of my friends who were like, you can bench a lot. And I was like, oh. So I just kind of like, I enjoyed that. And then I did track in middle school. This is the part I'm sure you understand. And then I got to high school and we had practice every day. And the first day of practice, we had to warm up with an 800-meter run, and I threw up and I quit. And that's my track experience.
You made it one day and almost 800 meters.
I made it one day.
Did you finish? Did you finish the 800?
I did. I finished them and then threw up and then was like, but there's a whole practice after this. That was the warm up. Yeah, so running's been a struggle for me. And then after that, when I graduated high school, I was kind of looking for an outlet for gymnastics, which I was no longer doing. And I was, gaining the freshman 15 like you do. And so I started working out regularly with some friends. But then I found pole dancing, which was something that I had always kind of wanted to do. I tried it with my sister. It became something I really, really, really enjoyed. Did a couple competitions there.
Walk me through some pole dancing training. What's the training process? Do you have like meets like gymnastics?
No, not really.
What's the judging criteria? Just brief me on the world of competitive pole dancing because I'm very interested.
So the classes I was taking were not very competitive at all. They were kind of based in yoga and dance movement and sort of feeling whatever you want to feel. And then you do pole tricks. And so there's some athletics and gymnastic ability that certainly helps you there. But then when you decide to do a competition, you kind of have to take on your training on your own. I mean, there are some choreographers you can work with. So there's choreography components, movement components like lines, things that you would see in gymnastics, like lines, shapes. There's certain tricks like points of contact with the pole, equaling level of difficulty. So like the fewer points of contact with the pole, the more difficult a trick is in theory. And so you compete in levels based on how many points of contact are allowed. And then the competitions, the judging is very subjective. I mean, at least when I was competing, it was still early enough on that the judging was really subjective. And it sort of depended on the competition and who showed up and how many people were in your level and in your category. And but you put a routine together essentially, and then practice. For us, we practiced in groups because we were always competing. In my studio, we always had a handful of people competing at the same time. So we would practice in groups with each other and then sort of critique and give feedback. And that was most of our training and practice. And then you show up, it's a one-day competition or like a weekend-long competition, usually in a hotel ballroom kind of thing.
And then you compete solo, as a team, both?
Solo.
Okay.
I think they eventually introduced a doubles, because there are always two poles on on whatever stage you're on. There's usually a spinning and a static pole. And I think that they introduced a category for doubles, but not at the time that I was competing.
So does it kind of work like gymnastics where you compete in a specific level, you're expected to do certain skills, and then you get deductions based off of kind of how you do on the skill, and then that's your score?
Yes, except it's a little bit more artistic based. So it's a little
Okay.
bit more about song choice and choreography and less about like nailing a skill, because
Okay.
the skills aren't even as like they don't even have the same names depending on who's teaching them and who you talk to and where you're learning them. So they're not as formulaic as a gymnastics competition. So it could look different on each person doing like a layout on is a like a pole trick. So a layout for different people could look different. There's different leg wraps. There's different places you could put your arms, and it doesn't matter as long as it's pretty for them and you're not falling.
I'm fascinated. What's like the limiting factor when you're doing like skills on the pole? Is it like your arm endurance? Is it strength? So when you miss a skill or something goes wrong, what's the reason why you missed that skill?
So for me, it was always the limiting factor was always flexibility. There's a lot of skills that you just can't do without, I mean, you have one vertical plane. So if you can't, move up and down a vertical surface, if you can't have both your legs, straddled on that one vertical surface, you just can't do that trick.
Yeah.
But there is a lot of strength, and for competition it is a lot of endurance, because it's you get like you're given 3 minutes or whatever, but that's actually a long time to be moved to climb up and down and move around. But so for some people it's strength, it's upper body strength. For some people it's the grip, because the poles are slippery, they're not necessarily tacky. So a lot of times, and you don't really know what to expect with a competition either. Sometimes the temperature in the room makes the poles especially slidey, or the person before you was especially sweaty, and so there's some throws some questions into the mix for sure.
For me, I think my limiting factor would be like my chub rub on my thunder thighs as
No,
they
that actually
interact with
helps.
at the what?
Yeah, the more
A sport
like
where my chub rub helps? Cam, tune in.
Hey, this is our calling, man. We've been doing the wrong thing for too long.
the more skin contact, the better.
Oh my! Sign me up. You know what? Bodybuilding, CrossFit, all this stuff. I'm built for pole. These adductors, these ham hocks were built for pole dancing.
Probably.
That is probably more pole dancing talk than we've ever had in a podcast, and probably more than we'll ever have ever again. So, Rachel, thank you for introducing us to the world of pole dancing.
You're welcome.
Looks challenging, I've never seen a competition, but I've been to some sketchy establishments before.
You should have Judy show you some of her videos, because they're really.
Oh.
She very nearly qualified for nationals, or maybe she did go to nationals. Yeah.
What do you do if you win nationals? You're just the national champ? Or do you go to the pro leagues? Are there pro leagues?
There's not well, not yet, I don't think. It's like there's different organizations that run these competitions. So there's not one single organization, and that's part of the problem with competition. So she went to nationals for this one organization. And so in order to do that, you have to qualify top 3 in a regional competition.
Okay.
Which she did. But yeah, definitely have her show you some videos. Actually, you can probably find them on YouTube too, because they were still on YouTube last I checked.
And we'll have her when she's on the podcast. We'll have her talk all about her history.
Yeah.
All right, let's move from pole dancing. Let's talk CrossFit. Some poles, some bars in that as well. Let's talk about your CrossFit training history. So, how many years did you do it? What were your specialties? What were your weaknesses? All that kind of stuff.
I started CrossFit. I guess I had done it. I guess I've been doing CrossFit for about 3 or 4 years now. My specialties were running and air biking. No. No, my specialties were actually more on the gymnastics side, the handstand push-ups, pull-ups, things like that. I really enjoyed those.
Can you handstand walk?
I can, not very far. I'm like 5 yards at a time kind of
Okay.
at this point.
Cam, can you handstand walk?
Don't know if you never tried, so.
So it might be yes. Can you do a handstand? Can you do a handstand push-up? You ever tried one before?
Yeah, last time I tried, I could.
Okay.
I think the hardest
What an
part
app.
was just getting up, like, without trying to put a hole in the wall. Like, I for sure can't, like, just do a handstand with no support, but.
You're pretty good. Rachel, you're pretty good with barbell work too. You've got a really good snatch and clean and jerk, right?
Snatch, not so much. Clean and jerk is actually okay.
What's your
I
best
spent
snatch?
125, I think.
That's good. That's like 55 kilos for someone who would that's like a body weight snatch for you.
But compared to my clean and jerk, which is 165,
Yeah, that's a good clean and jerk.
significantly different.
So when Rachel came to me with all of this, because CrossFit is very shouldery, a lot of shoulders in it. So as you can probably tell, as she kind of just sits there with her massive delts popping out. When Rachel came to me, she had no shortage of deltoids, but kind of transitioning over to bodybuilding. Where did you feel like your weak muscle groups were? Where did you feel like as someone who was getting into figure, maybe you were a little bit behind some of the competition?
Definitely hamstrings and glutes. Because I feel like even CrossFit, I feel like I've always been kind of quad dominant anyway. So even in CrossFit, all those movements that are just, I mean, my quads took over because you're not really focusing on any specific muscle group necessarily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we did GHDs until Rachel bled out of her eyes. Lots of RDLs, lots of good mornings, all that kind of fun stuff. Cam, what are your go-to exercises for someone who is a little bit lacking in the posterior chain? They don't have a plethora of posterior.
I think any straight leg deadlift or RDLs do really well, especially to a certain extent. When you start bringing males that are on drugs into it, lower back pumps can be a big issue too. But I really like weighted hyperextensions and any really kind of hip hinge that has a positive and negative tempo to it. I feel like forces that athlete to really learn like cool hip drive, glute contraction, everything there. I think they're movements that definitely can be tricky and can start incorporating the incorrect body part that we're trying to work with, but hip hinge movements are the move.
Rachel, how would you say that your glutes and hamstrings have responded to the bodybuilding training?
I feel like they responded very quickly. It took a while for me to start, I guess, feeling like I was able to isolate them. Because I felt like initially, and this was always my problem, even just deadlifting, I feel things in my lower back, like my back takes over very quickly. But once I was sort of over that hump, now I feel like they're responding very quickly.
Are you setting booty size PRs, you think? All time?
I think so. As far
That's
as
what
muscle.
we like to see.
Yeah.
Right on. Perfect. I had something that I was going to ask you, but it has slipped my mind. Oh, Cam was talking enhancements, so performance enhancing drugs. So Rachel is an all natural competitor, but Rachel has some experience with some drugs, and it was on her application form, and it scared the living bejesus out of me. So let's go to kind of where we met, your application, and talk through kind of your experience with GI tract cancer, I believe. Yeah, so walk me through that.
Okay. So essentially, I had been highly anemic for years, and my doctors had assumed that it was a GI tract bleed somewhere, but they couldn't find it. I had done a bunch of colonoscopies and endoscopies and scans, which are super fun. And then it wasn't until actually Judy she was a nurse in the endoscopy unit for when I met her, and she recommended this doctor for me, and she was like, he's the guy, he's gonna find this, like whatever it is, you can't ignore it, he's gonna find it. And when I say highly anemic, I mean like I was getting IV iron infusions every couple of weeks, and then my levels would just drop and I would need a blood transfusion, and they were like, where's all that blood going? So I had another colonoscopy and endoscopy, and they found a tumor in my small intestine that was sitting like right at the base of my stomach between my liver and pancreas. So they did a Whipple to take it out. It was about 7 centimeters, which is a big tumor, but it was a very slow growing tumor. So they took out the whole first part of my small intestine and 30% of my pancreas. And then they rerouted all the liver and bile ducts and pulled up my small intestine and reattached it to my stomach.
That's quite the surgery. What was the recovery time like for that?
So they said, well, so I was in the ICU for 2 days after, and then I was in the hospital for about 7 days after, and then I went home and got a fever and then was back in the hospital for like another week after that. So probably about 2 weeks total in the hospital. And then they said 6 weeks before I could start driving and lifting light weights again. But it ended up taking a lot longer than that to really be able to move around like normal again. But the hardest part was learning to eat again, actually, to digest food again, because I had new liver and bile ducts and no gallbladder either. So that was affecting my digestion of fats.
Yeah. So anyone with gallbladder issues or bile issues, you have to really keep that fat intake very low because you just don't have any way to kind of digest and absorb that. Have you had any run-ins since then where maybe it was accidental, where you kind of ate a bunch of fat in one meal, like anything like that?
Oh yeah, I had a lot of those experiences.
What is that? What is that like? How does that feel?
Well, I got nauseous after almost every meal for the first few months after that surgery. It's like having your stomach stapled or something, I'm told. Where like you just can't eat as much as you once could. So I got nauseous for a long time afterwards, and then almost any time I went out to a restaurant and I didn't know what they were cooking my food in, I got sick after that. But hamburgers were something that I couldn't eat for so long. Because I would think, oh, I'm just going to have half this burger and like a couple of fries, and I would throw up. It just did not work. Nope.
Yeah. So how long ago was that? How old were you when you were going through this?
I was 25, so it'll be 4 years this summer.
Okay. And now what's kind of the treatment going forward? You are on some low dose pharmaceuticals, right?
Yeah, so they took out the entire tumor. But they wanted to put me on an oral chemotherapy just to confirm. They don't really, it's a very new drug, and they don't really know, it's new for the treatment of cancer, I should say. So they don't really know if it actually kills cancer cells or if it just slows growth of them. But either way, their studies show that being on this oral chemo for 3 years improves the outlook.
Okay.
So,
and then with a lot of chemotherapy drugs, you run into pretty nasty side effects. Since this one is new and kind of low dose, have you run into anything like that?
Yes. Well, so one of the major side effects is that it leaches pigment from your skin, but I was already so fair that it doesn't really make that big of a difference.
Take that. I got no pigment for you.
I have an identical twin sister, so if you compare our skin tones, you can see it, but it's not that significant.
Yeah.
But I do like to throw that in people's faces when they call me pale.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I'm on drugs and I can't help it. Like,
yeah, that's actually the chemo.
You're the asshole. But in terms of that drug, there's none of like the super intense side effects like chronic nausea, muscle wasting, anything like that.
Well, nausea, yes, could be a side effect of it.
Okay.
which when I first started it, I had no way of really knowing if that was what was causing my nausea or if it was the food I was eating. So it didn't really matter. Swelling under the eyes was a weird side effect, and fluid retention,
Water
ankles,
retention.
hands, feet. Yeah. Um, and then muscle cramping is a big side effect, which
Okay.
I've always had. That hasn't changed. It's definitely gotten worse since I've been on the chemo. Like my hands cramp all the time. But
That
I've
makes
also got,
sense.
yeah.
Your body is pooling fluid in the extracellular space outside of the cell, not intracellularly. So the cell itself probably isn't getting the level of hydration that it would expect, thus cramping.
Mhm.
Has prep made that cramping any worse?
It's made it, yes. It's brought it to new places in my body. Instead of just my hands and feet cramping, my hamstrings cramp all the time and my quads twitch all the
Ooh,
time.
no, that's no fun.
Yeah.
Cam, did you get anything like that at the end of prep where you would get real bad cramping? Mine was always my calves. My calves would cramp up, or I would get hamstring
Mm.
too. Have you gotten an ab cramp yet?
Okay,
Dude,
so the ab cramp, I have I have a scar where like one of the drains was from my
Yeah.
surgery, and that muscle right behind that drain has cramped ever since.
Oh, so
It's
terrible.
it's
Cam,
really
have you had
terrible.
that? The ab cramp?
dude, I don't know if Paul told you, but like I cramping is something that is really, really bad for me. Like especially when dieting and when cleanse involved and stuff. I don't know what
Oh
it
yeah.
is, but back when I played football in high school, my mom cramps really, really bad too. Like I had to get IVs during half times in some games. And I don't know if I have like a potassium deficiency or what, but yeah, I've gotten like my neck where like I get locked up here, like my hands will look like this. I've got
Yeah.
Are you a heavy sweater? Do you sweat a lot?
not really.
Not really.
I mean, I
That's
did
interesting. What
back
about
when I
you?
was a big boy, but
Okay.
uh, I think during prep I started taking taurine and potassium, and I was fine. But if I didn't take that, I was screwed. Like
Yeah.
oblique cramps to the point where like I couldn't
Oh
pose.
man.
I would just have to be sitting here like this, like try not to breathe. But I had a time after a two-a-day where I almost went to the ER because I was on the couch from I think 10 p.m. till 3 a.m. like in full body like convulsions and cramps. Like I remember being
Wow.
15 or 16 years old and like never cussed in front of my parents, and I was just letting it go that night. I remember my dad being like, suck it up, and I like took a Gatorade bottle and just chucked it at the wall. Just exploded blue Gatorade everywhere because I was in so much pain. Like my quad would be locked up, and so I'd go and try and stretch it out, and then my hamstring would lock up, and I'd just be in this in between weird like, okay, now I'm relaxed, I'm fine, don't move anything, and like I would slightly move something, and I'd just be like, oh no, here it comes, and then everything would just start going again.
I don't know what it is about Clem. Rachel, you're lucky you're on the natural side. You don't do any of the Clembuterol or anything like that. But like one of the first times I took Clen, I was on like I was training leg press to failure that day. So I failed and I kind of got stuck at the bottom and I went to push my legs off myself and both of my pecs cramped and I was stuck in this position right here, stuck under the leg press. So I'm getting pinned by the leg press and my chest is cramped and I'm in this position right here. It's just playing it off, trying to act cool. But yeah, I can imagine that that full night of cramping was something else. I thought you were gonna say you threw your Gatorade bottle at your dad.
I thought so too.
Yeah. Throw it at your dad next time. Dad, you don't know me. You don't know what I'm going through, man. You don't know my struggles.
Like that, man.
All right, so talking about some prep struggles, some of the things that come with prep. Let's talk about your prep season so far, Rachel. So
Okay.
Rachel has been, and Judy as well, and we'll talk about this when she comes on. But Rachel has been particularly everyone bitching and moaning about their shows getting canceled. You ain't got shit on Rachel because we had one show and then we had a plan B. And then I think what plan are we on now? So
We're on
just
plan.
I'll let you go.
Well, so we had. I looked back at my notes yesterday. We had so April 4th was the initial plan, which that one was devastating because we were what 3 weeks out at that point.
3 weeks out, yeah, and and we'll flash some pictures up on the screen, but Rachel was beyond ready. She was ready on top of being ready. She would have been by far the most conditioned figure girl on stage, bar none.
Wow. Yeah, that's rough. And then we talked briefly about an April 23rd, or like a couple more weeks in April, but I think we glossed over that pretty quickly once we realized we weren't going to do an April show. And then we had a May 9th date. And then we talked about June 6th. But June 6th was the one we like had settled on. And then I guess as soon as we started re-prepping, found out that that one was going to be moved to July 4th. So now July 4th is the goal.
July 4th. We're headed for July 4th. The independence from Corona and the independence from prep, where you'll finally be set free.
Yeah.
But yeah, so kind of going into that April 4th show, walk me through kind of what we were planning, where we were at in our plan, what our current process was at that point from your end.
So what we were 3 weeks out, I was ready. So we were starting to reverse diet, fill back up. It felt really good. And then we didn't get very far. I think we only got a week into that.
I think so, yeah.
And then, so that was what I was really excited for. That was the part of the process that I was like, woohoo, this is the easy part.
Yeah.
And then we didn't get there.
Yeah, so I think we were 1 week into it. I think we had increased your food by something like 5 or 10%. I want to say it was somewhere around that point. You had gotten as low, I think, as like 1,300 calories on average, somewhere around that point.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So, and then she was doing a good amount of steps as well. She was really active with her job, really active, kind of walking around the gym with Judy, as I saw on your Instagram story that one day. So a good amount of activity, just really dropped fast at the end and sent me pictures one day. I remember I was sitting at First Watch, having breakfast, and I was like, oh, God damn, Rachel is ready. And that day we were like, all right, let's start this reverse. So going through the reverse, things are filling out, looking really good. We had a weight that we wanted to hit. We were right on pace to hit that weight for stage. And then Corona hits. And then we're into full-on diet break mode. So walk me through what that diet break looked like on your end.
Well, that the night we found out the competition was canceled, I think that I know I ordered a pizza and had some salad, so there was some healthy food in there too.
Yeah, vegetables.
Ordered Cheesecake Factory. You said something like start slow, and you gave me like I think 1,700 calories or something, and I was like, yeah, no.
One piece of cheesecake from Cheesecake Factory is 1,700 calories.
Yeah. So I think I did pizza and cheesecake, and I think about 3 margaritas that night.
What does your stomach feel like the next day?
3,000 calories.
So I felt really good. I was like, I have no regrets. I've never felt this good. And then I woke up in the middle of the night and threw up.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I was surprised I made it that far. Like I made it like 6 hours being like, this is the best.
Okay. So we had cheesecake, we had a burger, or we had pizza, we had a salad to cancel it all out.
There was burrata in the salad though, so it was like,
okay. I mean, you could have just left that out and everyone would have thought that you were being healthy.
What is that?
You don't know what burrata is? Explain it to this uncultured swine.
It's like fresh mozzarella with like oozy mozzarella on the inside. It's cheese. It's really good cheese.
So Rachel just bombarded herself with dietary fat. Had 6 hours where she was the Incredible Hulk. She went from Bruce Banner to the Incredible Hulk, and then she shrank back down in size in the middle of the night and was violently vomiting.
Yes.
So moving forward from that night, then what do we do from there? So I said 1,700 calories. You were like, that ain't happening. What was our compromise?
Our compromise was just eat 2,000 calories a day. Make sure you get your protein in, and then you don't worry about fats and carbs.
Yeah, so we knew we had time, and we really didn't quite know how much time we had. So, and I'm sure it drove you absolutely insane that our plan pretty much was just week by week. Let's just wait until we get more information. At this point, there weren't the task force briefings every day. We weren't getting a lot of information. So we were kind of just guessing on a day-by-day basis when everything was going to pop back up. So how long did the diet break end up lasting for?
I think it was 5 weeks.
So a solid 5 weeks, yeah.
Yeah.
So we went up to 2,000 calories. There were probably some days where you were a little over, probably some days where you were a little under. We were kind of on the training side of things. You were locked out of the gym, but you were able to, grab some kettlebells, grab some dumbbells. So,
Right.
I mean, I think our training has been pretty progressive or pretty structured and well done since then. I don't think you've really missed a beat compared to most.
No, I think the training was the part I was able to stay really consistent with. The food was the part that fell off. I mean, that was hard during that diet break because it was a little bit of like the emotional,
For sure.
Coming out of, or the disappointment of not making it to that date, first of all, and then feeling like, well, we don't even know if this is going to happen or when. So it was a little bit on the emotional side. And then it was also like, I'm so hungry and I forgot what it feels like to feed that.
Yeah, and I know that I've had windows post-show where in 2 or 3 weeks I've put on 20 pounds. I know Cam had a similar experience post-show, that hyperphagia, that uncontrollable hunger where you're eating and you feel full, but you're like, I physically cannot stop myself. I absolutely cannot stop eating.
Survival,
and that can be something. Yeah. And some people, and maybe you can speak to this, Rachel, but some people think that they can out-train that. They can just do an amount of training that makes up for that. Do you think that's possible? Cam already laughing.
I don't even know what that would mean.
Not a bodybuilder. You better go do some Ironmans. Like,
Better be running 5 miles a
train
day.
the number of calories you're eating.
Yeah.
Like,
No way.
I hate so much like all these bodybuilders around like Thanksgiving and holidays where they'll be like, oh, about to put all this good food to use. I'm like, man, you're not, but just enjoy the holiday. Like, you don't have to make it about bodybuilding. Like,
because it's not like you're craving plain chicken and vegetables. Like I was dipping cookies in peanut butter. Like you're going for the most calorically dense things you can possibly do.
But make sure to take your GDAs with it so you'll shove all the carbs to the right, like.
So I kind of had because I've had a couple coming out of show experiences dealing with this. So I tried to take what Rachel said as an approach, like, you know what, I'm just gonna, keep my foods quote unquote clean. I'm gonna eat my chicken and my vegetables and my oatmeal, and I still couldn't keep up with the amount of calories that I was putting in, because not only are you craving like calorie dense foods, like really tasty foods, you're craving like just a large volume of food. You just want food and you want all of it. And until you've kind of experienced that, people from the outside, and I've heard this before, well, just control it. Just stop eating. Just don't do it. It's like this, for people who have been inside of the situation, that physically is, or psychologically, that's not even an option.
Right. It was almost like the hunger was worse at that point. Like, I thought about food a lot when I was dieting. I thought about food way more when I could eat more food.
Yeah, and then you combine that with like the psychological letdown of not having the show, not knowing when there was going to be a show. And I think, what was your lowest weigh-in? I think you were like, what?
115.
Yeah.
So like high 115. Yeah.
115, 116. And then after kind of, getting the big food on the front end and then kind of diet breaking for 5 weeks, I think you were what, 126, 127 at the end of that?
I think it got a little higher. I think we got more to like 128.
Okay. Yeah. So 128. And then what was your starting weight for prep?
Like 127.
What did you start at?
Early.
Though?
The first prep. 138.
Okay. All right. So Rachel started at 138, probably lost somewhere around like 20 pounds of body fat, and then kind of came back up. And then since and now we can kind of get back into restarting prep now. So we went through that 4 or 5 week diet break, and now we're kind of revving back up for that 4th of July show. Where are we at right now? How many weeks out are we at? What do the macros look like? What does training look like? And kind of how do you feel transitioning back into dieting?
So we are about 8 weeks out now. I was actually really relieved to start dieting again, because I had felt so out of control with the way I was eating before. So I was actually, and I was getting to the point where I was kind of sick of food again. So I was kind of excited to start dieting again.
Yeah.
And it's been a totally different experience this time around. Partially because it's a different mind game, knowing that there's a chance that the show is going to get canceled. So I have to sort of refocus my goals and find goals within the process, and like really try and focus on enjoying the process and not really focus on what it's going to feel like to get on stage as much. And but the dieting itself was kind of easy to fall back into once I got all the food out of my house.
Do you live with roommates?
I live with my sister.
Okay. And
Yeah.
is sister dieting for a bodybuilding show?
She's not, but
She is
she is actually still working because she's a teacher.
Okay.
So she's regimented enough with her food. Like she eats at normal meal times. She doesn't like snack really, and so it hasn't been. She was actually more influenced by me when I was like, "Do you want to order a pizza tonight?" And she was like, "I hate this.
You're the
Don't do
bad
this to me."
influence.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we did kind of talk about the hardest part of prep. It was that not knowing, that moving from one show date to the next. What would you say has been the easiest part so far?
I would say the training has actually been the easiest part. I've found that I thought it would be harder to adapt to training at home too, and it's really not. I kind of enjoy it, and I kind of enjoy having the flexibility in my schedule to get it in whenever I want to. And I actually feel like in a lot of ways I'm getting more benefit now from the training. Maybe that's because I had that diet break and I was able to, increase calories and stuff. But
Yeah.
but I think that the training has actually been the easiest part. I find it easiest to push myself there. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think that you are always someone that has enjoyed the training. So whether it was gymnastics training, I'm sure you really enjoyed that. You transitioned over to, we won't talk about cross country or track, transitioned over to kind of the pole dancing and the CrossFit style. And you've always enjoyed the training. And what I found is that the people who really do enjoy the training like that, they don't really struggle with that part of bodybuilding. Going to the gym
Right.
every day is fun. It's cathartic for you. It's what you
Yeah.
really, what you live for.
I actually struggle more, I'm finding, with the diet on the days that I don't train, because like there's something, I guess, there's something mental about training, and it almost reminds me of what I'm doing. Whereas if
Yeah.
it's an off day and I don't go to the gym and I don't do anything, I'm kind of like, why am I so hungry and what am I doing with my time?
You have those idle hands. Those are
Yes,
hungry hands.
they are.
So
Yes.
what exactly are you looking forward to? We'll say July 5th. So July 5th rolls around. What are you most looking forward to?
Tequila.
Okay.
No, I'm
We're taking
actually
shots of tequila, Cam. You've missed a lot.
I'm back, man. Ava got into the artificial plant downstairs, and now
Oh,
there's
no.
artificial grass
Uh-oh.
everywhere.
Oh, Ava, come on.
She's in the
Cam, you
crate.
gotta whip that girl into shape. You gotta take her to doggy training camp.
I'm
All right,
used
Cam,
to
we're
it,
talking
but I
about
just
what is
threw her-
Rachel going to enjoy the most on July 5th. She said she's going to wake up at 7 a.m. and start the day with tequila shots. Did I hear that
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
No,
You
I'm
good?
really excited to enjoy my summer. I'm really excited to like go on a vacation and feel like I can eat freely on vacation. And I don't know. I mean, I'm hoping this is happening anyway, because there's a lot of things that Corona may keep us from
Yeah.
anyway, which some days I can remind myself that in some ways that makes prep easier this time around, because the social part was really hard the first time around, being invited out for a drink and having to be like, okay, but I'll get club soda, or, opening night parties at work when I couldn't, pick at the food tables or have drinks and things like that. That was the hard part the first time around. This time, that is not the hard part, because there
No
is
more
none of that.
social life has been canceled.
Yeah.
We put big time out on social life.
Right.
You talked about just like getting into parts of the process and, building up the habits that it takes to be a successful bodybuilder in prep. Do you see a lot of those habits kind of carrying with you as you kind of transition out of contest prep? Or are you kind of more looking forward to just complete return to Rachel Pollard before she ever knew what a bodybuilding prep was?
No, I think a lot of the habits will stick with me. I think I'll definitely keep a closer eye on my food. I mean, I was sort of loosely tracking macros before. I understood it and had done it
Yeah.
before, but I think that I'll probably want to continue with that because I feel like it'll help me with my goals of like if I want to build muscle, like there are things that I need to know how to keep my eye on, and I'll want to keep my eye on them.
Yeah.
And then I liked being regimented in when I went to the gym and what kinds of training I did at the gym. So I'll definitely keep some of those habits in my life as well. Also, I
Cool.
started to enjoy cooking a little bit more and preparing meals more, which surprised me. So that won't go away. I don't think.
And you learn how to make macro-friendly meals super, super tasty.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you show your family and they love you for it, and it's all good from
Yeah.
there. What were you
Like
gonna
I've been
say,
cooking
Cam?
for my sister now.
I said, because I think you have a lot of athletes that have done like powerlifting or CrossFit. Like most of mine are more young and like started with bodybuilding, and you've taken some that have done something else with some kind of more weightlifting specific sport and then put them in bodybuilding. And it's funny because you're like, what will you take away from it? And every time it's like, oh, just being better about nutrition, like learning how, like with meals and stuff. I'm like, nah, you're going to learn from it like a year from now. Dang, I'm a fat kid forever now. I'm always a fat kid. I dieted for a bodybuilding show. Oh, I'm a fat kid at heart forever.
But yeah, talking about some of the other stuff that you've done, our final question here, where do you see yourself going next? Are we going to see Rachel pursue a long career as a figure competitor? Are we going to see you go back to CrossFit, maybe go back to pole dancing, take Judy's national championship away from her in pole dancing? Or will it kind of be a mixture of both, or of everything? Because you've kind of got a large range and you seem like pretty much equally passionate about a lot of things.
Yeah.
What's the biggest thing you're passionate about now, or what do you see yourself pursuing going forward?
I definitely want to go back to CrossFit. I definitely want to keep that part of my life, but I do see myself potentially doing another competition afterwards. After some time off and some time to build and things like that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I could see it. I see weirdly right now I see myself going more towards another bodybuilding competition and continuing with that. But I don't know because I don't actually know if I'm going to enjoy the show itself. I don't know what that experience is actually like. So we'll
Yeah.
see.
So we're gonna have to sit down and have a little phone call / Skype call afterward and be like, well, how was it? Did you actually have fun?
Yeah.
It'd be
But I
tight
think you
to get
will.
a few of the first time competitors in here and like us throw a question out and then it really just turns into them running the show and throwing up
Yeah.
papers. Well, I mean, I've competed once too, but yeah, them talking about the experience because it's gonna be a whole lot of it's not what you think it is till you're up there.
Yeah.
Paul's gotta be in that convo. It's really not that gay as it seems, guys.
I the first time I got out there, I thought that I would be like insanely nervous. I thought my heart would be pounding. I wouldn't be able to see anything, like just basically black out there. But man, it's almost impossible to explain just like getting prejudging done, knowing all the points have been tabulated, like you're good, you're done, you go back to your hotel room or wherever you're hanging, you just kind of hang out and spend the day just chilling. Rachel, how do you feel about being the center of attention? Are you someone that likes kind of all that attention, or are you someone that doesn't really prefer that?
um, I don't prefer it in front of large groups. I definitely have some stage fright. But I would not call myself the center of attention. No, I don't think I like that.
I could see that about you. Judy, though. Now, Judy, center of attention, right? Call her out. Let her know.
I I mean, I don't know, because she has moments where she appreciates that, but I wouldn't say that it's like a general quality of hers.
I think you guys are a good little match. I think she's kind of like the louder, more outgoing one. I see you as more of the quiet one. Am I doing a good job?
Yeah, I would say that's pretty accurate.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, that wraps us up today. Rachel, where can the people find you for all of their delt motivation, or should I say quitspiration needs? And maybe they hit you up for a costume.
Yeah. I am making my own well, I'm rhinestoning my own bikini.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Where can they find you?
So they can find me on Instagram, Incredibly Rachie, Poll, Paul, like the first part of my last name.
Do you follow me?
What?
I said, do you follow me?
Cam's
I think so.
just fishing for followers.
Yeah.
Cam, we're trying to record a
Brandon
podcast.
didn't.
Stop trying to get your follower count up.
Hey,
Just
man.
pay for some more followers and be quiet. Cam, where can they find you? Actually, don't follow Cam. It's at Cameron_Cheek, but don't follow him. He's got enough. He can use the swipe up feature and all of that. Come give your follows to me at _SquatFather or at Gifted Performance on Instagram. Follow Rachel.
You
I'm going to be hitting up
need
Rachel.
to lay off
If-
the crack cocaine.
Don't tell me how to live my life. You see these eyes? These are the eyes of a meth addict. Tiger King. I'm gonna hit you up on Halloween because I'm growing out the middle part. I'm gonna go middle part. I'm gonna dye it purple, and I need you to make me a Dragon Ball Z outfit. Can I schedule for that?
Sure.
Perfect. All right. You heard it here first. Get all your cosplay needs at the Incredible Rachie Poll. I am the _SquatFather. This has been the Gifted Performance Athlete Diaries. Thanks for stopping by. Like, comment, subscribe, and as always, stay gifted.
Meow.